let me go ahead and introduce you to Helldivers 2, baby. For democracy. Hello everyone, welcome to the Troy Sturdy channel. I'm Troy, and today I am reviewing Helldivers 2. And gee whiz, slap my ass and call me Sally. I'll get straight to the point here. I'm having way too much fun with Helldivers 2. To put it simply, this game is just a fucking blast. This shit slaps harder than Will Smith. Oh, wow! Now, I've never played Helldivers 1, but I know it was a twin-stick shooter, which really isn't my cup of tea. And now they've gone ahead and made the jump to a third-person shooter, which very much is my cup of tea. Or should I say, liberty. Just warning y'all, there will be puns aplenty because this game is just chock full of them. But okay, sure, Helldivers 2, it's a lot of fun. But when putting my critic hat on, it's not completely perfect. But what are those issues? Let's go ahead and talk about it. As usual, I'll go ahead and give a brief, spoiler-free synopsis, although there isn't really a plot in Helldivers 2, but we will go ahead and get to all of that. Then I'll break down what I think worked and I enjoyed, and then what I think didn't work and might be holding the game back. But before we dive in, boo, you stink! I'd like to remind you that if you enjoy my content, please don't forget to like, comment, and definitely subscribe. I just love video games, and I'm always reviewing the newest games that I'm playing, as well as playing them live here on YouTube. So go ahead and just hit that subscribe button. Come on in and join the party. Thank you very much. So without further ado, let's take a look at Helldivers 2. Fucking bars.
But freedom doesn't come free.
No! Sweet liberty! No!
Look familiar? Scenes like these are happening all over the galaxy right now. And you could be next. That is, unless you make the most important decision of your life. Prove to yourself that you have the strength and the courage to be free.
Join the Helldivers.
So in Helldivers 2, you aren't playing as an individual Helldiver per se, but rather your role is more accurately described as the commander of a ship as a whole. You are tasked with defending Super Earth from extraterrestrial threat. I always have a trouble saying that word, extraterrestrial threats. That's right, Super Earth, humanity is finally united against a common enemy ruled under what is essentially managed democracy. It's all very pulpy and sort of 80s and 90s sci-fi, where it kind of seems like the United States and our whole freedom shtick has just gotten out of control. It's great. It's wonderful. This game definitely oozes style. But what do you really do in Helldivers 2? As mentioned, your role is more the ship as a whole, and you'll fly around to humanity's various war fronts and planets and select missions to drop into. It's at this point you'll control the individual soldiers or Helldivers that humanity is just throwing into this meat grinder that is these alien threats. You know, at its core, Helldivers 2 is essentially just a 4-player co-op extraction shooter, which I know kind of gets a bad rep because there are already a lot of shitty extraction shooters, but here it is pulled off pretty well. And that's essentially it. Helldivers 2 seems really simple on its surface, but there is so much more. So what makes Helldivers 2 so great? Well, I mean, the best part about Helldivers 2 is just the gameplay. It is so fucking sweet and just incredibly immersive. It has to be one of the most immersive shooters that I've ever played. Partaking in these missions, you'll just organically get yourself into these super intense moments and firefights with you and your squad. It's one of those games where just moments will be burned into your memory and you won't be able to stop telling your friends how sweet it was. Whether that be taking down a Titan with a precision airstrike while your squad holds off hordes of bugs, or sprinting through robot Vietnam while red blasters pierce through the night over your shoulder as you desperately try to make it to the extraction site, or something just goofy like getting absolutely clipped by your own sentry's line of fire. But specifically why? What makes Helldivers 2 gameplay just so damn fun and immersive? Well, I really think the devil's in the details here. Just the attention to detail and the thought and care the developer Arrowhead Games put into crafting this experience. A real good example is like just the way the map works. How your Helldiver looks at his arm when you pull up your map, and swapping back and forth is both fluid but also taxing, so it must be done in the proper moments. Or the way your character model changes the way it moves through brush or thick snow. The fact that calling in an airstrike or using an objective critical terminal isn't just a simple button press, it's a randomized D-pad sequence that will have you absolutely sweating and fumbling the bag in some heated moments. Just the fact that your role is more accurately described as your ship, because when you inevitably move on from this corporeal realm, you then assume the role as the next Helldiver in line to meet the same fate. Death is embraced, and you are nothing but meat to the grinder. Although your superiors instill a very false sense of confidence in you, as if you're the fucking Master Chief.
You remind me of a younger me, fearless and vulnerable and 7 feet tall.
The fact that the primary mission is always priority 1, and that if you fail this, you will collect nothing in rewards. The list goes on and on. Helldivers 2 just absolutely crushes the feeling and immersion in being humanity's last line of offense against these absolutely menacing threats. It also helps that the game is surprisingly good looking. You know, for a $40 experience, I was expecting something a bit more basic or arcadey, but no, Helldivers 2 will bring you to some absolutely stunning locations. You know, particle effects and particularly explosions are nice and weighty. Few things are as satisfying as setting off a hell bomb that just levels an enemy fortification. You know, speaking of beautiful locations, this kind of brings me to the live service elements of Helldivers 2 and the story. See, there is no traditional plot in Helldivers 2, but there is a story. This story is this sort of metagame, the Galactic War. Every time you do a mission, you are participating in this war, and you're helping humanity drive back its invaders. Now, there are only a few planets available at any one time, representing that these locations are currently the war front. And by a few, I'm saying, you know, about 5 to 10. And you know, this plans to rotate as the community liberates or loses certain planets, which so far can happen almost daily. And looking at the galactic map as a whole, there are just hundreds of planets. So you can sort of see how this ongoing war creates a story for the community as a whole. Even Super Earth itself has a liberation percentage, implying that enemy forces can barrel down all the way to our homeworld. I really hope I'm still playing Helldivers 2 when something like this happens. This sounds like a lot of fun, everyone getting together and defending Earth. And there's other possibilities. Perhaps the automatons and the Terminids can fight each other somewhere. What happens when their territories meet? And there's a whole faction not present currently from Helldivers 1. So you know they will add more enemies. You know, like I said, the possibilities are just endless and most important, interesting. I'm excited to log in and to participate in this galactic war and see where this all goes. If you're playing, or if you plan on playing Helldivers 2, you know, I highly recommend you join the Discord, as the community growing around this galactic war is just a ton of fun. But you can see how Helldivers 2 actually effectively incorporates live service elements here. And yeah, that's right, Helldivers 2 is a live service game, which live service usually comes with a lot of negative sentiment nowadays, especially coming hot off the back of Suicide Squad, which is just an absolute dumpster fire. But this is a rare case where the live service makes sense and it actually enhances the game by changing it up frequently. You know, the planets can change almost daily, and making an interesting metagame. I mean, just look at Helldivers 2 versus Suicide Squad. How in any way is Suicide Squad interesting to continue to play? Everything about it just sucks. There's no metagame. Also, Suicide Squad is $70 compared to Helldivers 2, which is $40. That's almost half the price. Anyways, I'm getting off topic here. I just hate Suicide Squad the more I think about it. Now, so I've already mentioned some of humanity's threats here, the Terminids and the automatons, robots, automatons. I don't know how to say that properly. You think like making YouTube videos, I would figure out how to speak better, but whatever. The Terminids are these bug-like aliens, which are obviously heavily inspired by Starship Troopers. And the automatons are robots, which look like they are heavily inspired by Terminator. And I gotta say here, the enemy designs are fan-fucking-tastic. You know, from a visual point, they are very different and really drive home the 80s and 90s sci-fi Americana aesthetic going on here. But also from a gameplay perspective, they both feel different to fight. The automatons rely more on ranged attacks and heavy armor, while the Terminids rely on swarm tactics and melee. Well, of course, you know, they still have some heavily armored bugs and some ranged ones that could spit acid at you. So yeah, within each race, there are all different types of armored, light, melee, fucking tanks, dropships, you name it. So this great enemy variety really helps keep the gameplay fresh. Again, compare this to just the god-awful enemy design in Suicide Squad. It's just like night and day. You know, I hate to compare these two games, but beyond just releasing close to one another, they actually have a good amount in common. You know, they're both live service shooters. Anyways, last time I bring that god-awful Suicide Squad game up, I promise. So killing these fantastic enemies with all different types of weaponry feels great. The shooting itself in Helldivers 2 has kind of an interesting mechanic where you may be pointing your crosshairs in one location, but the actual barrel might be slightly off due to recoil or the weight of the weapon. You know, you can see where the actual barrel is positioned by a small circle kind of floating around your reticle. So this is kind of a unique spin that I've never seen before. And I feel like it also helps kind of represent that, you know, sure, you're some of humanity's best soldiers, but you're still human. You know, so firing off like a huge heavy machine gun while backpedaling might affect your aim a lot. Sure, you can use some skill to adjust your reticle, but you know, this only does so much. The smart thing to do is to try your best to go prone while firing, but then of course that leaves you vulnerable. So this kind of system actually emphasizes tactics and positioning over, say, recoil or moment-to-moment gunplay skill. And every weapon, at least that I've used so far, utilizes this mechanic to help make it feel different. And your character also moves through the world very slowly and can be easily bogged down by environmental or enemy effects. Again, this emphasizes tactics and positioning over Twitch gameplay shooting. And so that's just the firearms. You'll also be calling in various stratagems to annihilate humanity's foes. You know, you got napalm, you got orbital bombardments.
Democracy's on its way.
Sentries, little drones that guard you, EMPs, the list goes on. You know, some are definitely more powerful than others, but they're all very, very fun to use. Before you go and drop into a mission, you have a chance to kind of change your loadout. You can select your starting weapons and armor, and any 4 stratagems that you've unlocked. So you can tailor this to your own style and also what you think is best for the particular mission that you're on. Which, speaking of missions, yeah, there's a lot of good variety here. Some will have you trek across enemy-infested areas to launch a nuke or delete sensitive data. Some will ask you to just defend an area. Or some will have you drop in and just wipe out as many enemies as possible. Or to destroy a specific enemy like a Titan. And those are only just to name a few. There's a lot of different varieties here. And again, this is another element to help keep this gameplay feeling fresh. I also gotta say, Helldivers 2 is difficult. Well, there are 9 different difficulty levels, so there is something for everybody. I've only gotten up to extreme, which I think is like 6 or 7. But damn, when shit hits the fan in this game, it hits the fucking fan. In the game, it doesn't hold your hand at all. The tutorial shows you how to move and shoot, and that's about it. You know, there are a lot of different gameplay mechanics here to learn. Even just navigating around the map and locating different points of interest or avoiding enemy patrols, this all takes time and skill to fully understand. Or, you know, getting the hang of certain stratagems or 2-person weapons. I'd say Helldivers 2 is easy to learn, but it's hard to master. And I think this is all great. This gives a lot of depth to the gameplay and again, helps it feel fresh. Alright, so the shooting is great, the locations are great, the enemies are great. Hell, even the metagame live service stuff is great. Are there any negatives here? Can I pick out anything in this game? Well, yes actually, but they aren't really like huge issues. I'd say for me, the main big letdown has to be like the progression. There are a lot of different currencies here, which usually isn't a good start. There's your standard XP, which determines your level. Then there are requisition points, samples, which of the samples, there are 3 separate types, medals, and super credits. But really that sounds a lot worse than it actually plays out. The way you acquire new stratagems with requisition points and then upgrade them with the samples is good, especially the samples. Even though there are 3 different types of samples, which just adds to the convolutedness, it actually does make sense here because certain samples need to be acquired at specific difficulty tiers. This forces you to tackle the higher difficulties if you want to continue to get stronger. And you find the samples in missions and then have to extract with them on your possession. So again, this adds another layer of strategy to the gameplay. So the requisition points and the samples, that's all great. Where I have some issues is the medals and the super credits. Medals are acquired through completing missions and can be spent to obtain items and progress through the war bond system, which is similar to a battle pass. In war bonds is how you unlock new firearms and armor, as well as cosmetics and emotes and other shit. Super credits are used to buy the premium war bond, battle pass, whatever, and can also be used in like a rotating item shop for limited time armor. And of course, super credits can be bought for real-time money with microtransactions. But they also can be found in missions, although at a pretty slow pace. So you can see how just kind of convoluted this all is, which I'm just not a huge fan of. I also really don't like how weapons are kind of lumped together in the war bonds battle pass with cosmetics and emotes. I think this whole system would be much better if the weapons were like the stratagems and bought with requisition points and just had the battle pass be like cosmetic stuff and armor. I'd also like to point out that I wish you could customize the armor you do get a bit further, like at least the color would be nice. Just a lot of these armor pieces are sort of boring. You know, give me something that helps me stand out a bit more. But back to the weapons. Since there are some good weapons, you know, arguably better, that are part of the battle pass, Troy's editor, Troy here. I just wanted to point out that Troy meant to say the premium battle pass here. That distinction is pretty important here, so just wanted to make sure we were clear. The premium battle pass. Thank you, bye-bye. So it's not pay to win, but pay to get ahead and unlock shit quicker. You know, this isn't great, but I do respect that at least you can unlock super credits through normally playing the game on any difficulty. So like I said, some of the progression is good, some of it is meh. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but I think it could have been done better. In the end, I am excited to level up my ship further and unlock cooler and better gear, which is what is really most important. And then my other gripe is that the game's launch has been very rocky. Now, this is mainly due to just capacity issues. The developers were not ready for Helldivers 2 to be this popular. So that just really speaks to how fun and great the game truly is. But I would be lying if I'd say this server issues hasn't affected my time in a negative way. I've had a lot of matchmaking issues when trying to find a group to play with. Even when I did have some friends I could link up with, we weren't receiving XP for some missions and still had some connectivity issues. And you can play Helldivers 2 solo, but as with most games, it's much more fun with a group of people, and Helldivers 2 specifically is more geared towards playing with a squad. And kind of a side point here, I do wish they had a little bit more options for a solo gamer. Maybe have some AI companions that you can drop in or something along those lines, so that way if you do have some connectivity issues, you're not completely boned. Hell, and just this other weekend, they gave everyone an XP boost. Then the servers went down for pretty much the whole weekend, and then they had to cap it at a certain amount. And it was at this point I kind of put the game down and was like, I'm just going to wait to play this later. But I've heard some people were waiting hours to get in. The launch has just been a bit of a disaster. But, you know, I don't want to say it's a good problem to have, but it's because the game is so popular. Reports are that Arrowhead is hiring a lot of developers right now to help get this game into shape. And when it works, it's great. So I am hopeful that they will iron out these issues soon. It's really hard for me to knock on a developer too hard when they weren't ready for the game to be this popular. If it just releases and no one's playing it and it's having a bunch of issues, that's one thing. But if it releases and it's so good that the game is just flooded with people trying to play, I feel like it's difficult for me to be too hard on them. All right, so in conclusion, Helldivers 2. It's a fantastic game. The moment-to-moment gameplay is just so unique and very fresh take on an extraction sort of horde shooter. So with all that, I'm giving Helldivers 2 an 8.75 out of 10. It's almost perfect. The gameplay pretty much is, but it is bogged down a bit by a convoluted progression system that I think could have been done better. And it's had a very, very rough launch and is quite buggy. Bugs, yeah, there's bugs swarming all over this game. I think once Arrowhead irons out the technical issues, this game can easily be a 9 or even a 10 if they could just make the progression feel a bit better. Also maybe give us some more badass armor or customization options. But regardless, I'm hooked and I love Helldivers 2. I will definitely be playing this game for quite some time because I'm actually interested in the live service elements. So catch me on the Warfront, Helldivers. Let's push out this alien scum for managed democracy. And thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know down below. What do you think of Helldivers 2? Have you and the squad been just absolutely obliterated on Robot Nom yet? God, I love this game. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.